Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to finish out this week with a creator request like we usually do, and that's where a band gets in contact with me and asks for me to check out their music, of which I'm always happy to do so because we have found some phenomenal up-and-coming bands through this program. Joining us today, we have Thorsten, the guitarist from a German metalcore band Call It Tragedy. Says, recently came across your reactions and enjoy watching them. Wanted to ask you if you'd like to react to my band's new video. It was the most intense video shoot for us so far, and I would be really excited to hear your opinion. I think fans of AILD, As I Lay Dying, Crystal Lake, Wage War, and Veil of Maya will enjoy this. I'm also curious to know what you think about the subject matter of the video as well as the composition and production quality of the song. I really like how you analyze the songs. Looking forward to your answer. If you have any questions, just let me know. Have a great evening. Call It Tragedy. All right, let's dive into this. I'm excited. Let's see what Call It Tragedy has in store for us with Alteration Plus. Yeah, really nice. We have one guitar doing the guitars are doing something different every 2 bars. Really interesting. We're bringing back this intro idea into the verse. And the guitars are doing something different here than they were on the first verse. Yeah. Really nice contrast there between the sparser instrumentation and the heavy vocals still. We have some really nice harmonizing on that vocal line. Oh, you know, it's not a harmony, it's a pan backing track, or secondary tracking. Get some heavy groove in there for a moment. Real tasteful line there. think there's two growls or a growl and a scream going on, but the scream's really volumed out. Really interesting decision there at the end to fluctuate between rigidity and groove. Yeah, lots of really interesting things going on there. I would not, if this had just come up normally throughout the week in one of the themed ones, or possibly even just a special selection, I don't know that I would have approached this any differently than any other song. It feels very competent, very well produced, very well created. Definitely does not sound like a band that is just up and coming. Um, and they only have 400 subscribers on their YouTube channel, so they definitely are up and coming, but I think they have a bright future ahead of them. So let's see. I think the first thing I want to look at is structure, because this is the thing that surprised me the most. The song starts out with, we have our intro idea into our verse. The verse has heavy growls in it, and then we move into the chorus and we get the clean vocals out of that. And then the verse 2 came in and we went back to the heavy vocals, and I felt that I had kind of figured out what was going on here. This was fitting in more of a traditional metalcore idea, doing the verse, chorus, bridge, chorus kind of structure, and pairing that with alternating heavy and clean vocals. Pretty traditional for the genre. But it was real quick that they began to work on breaking apart the structure of the song, both on a micro and a macro level. Even in the first verse, I was going to mention how I liked the way that they had the right pan guitar doing I don't remember if it was chord stuff or if it was just like pedal note, eighth note stuff going on. But basically, it was foundational work going on, and then the left pan guitar was doing some shreds, some 18th note, 18th note, some 16th note ideas, I think, and having a lot of range movement, having flow to the melody line and stuff like that. And it was providing the forward momentum to push us into the next section, whereas the vocals were adding into more of a textural rhythmic element, as well as what the drums and bass were doing, very rhythmic components. But the thing was is that they did that for 2 bars. I think it was 8 beats maybe. And then I noticed that they were both harmonizing on some moving melodic lines. And they did that for 2 bars. And then the next set of 2 bars, they were doing something completely different. I think we had foundational stuff in the left and a lead idea in the right that wasn't continuing on with this constant 8th or 16th note run. They were doing a variety of rhythmic elements with range movement. And I noticed that there wasn't any repetition or looping idea going on in what the guitars were doing throughout this first verse. I noticed it a little too late, so I'm not sure if maybe there was a larger repetition. Maybe, I'm looking at it at 4 groups of 2 bar loops, so maybe 2 8-bar loops, possibly, but at least on this smaller level, every 2 bars seemed to be doing something different. And that was the first indication that things were going to be a little bit different here. The chorus comes in, we get some really nice dual guitar play, creating foundational elements for the vocalist to just come out with that very powerful vocal style and provide the melody on top of everything. We come into the second verse, though. Here's my second indicator. They're not doing anything like they were with the first. The 2 guitars have a completely different roles. The atmosphere of the section is different. Rather than going for this very full sound, it was a bit more narrow. There was some empty space on top, and it was to provide space so that when they moved into the breakdown that would be coming next, they could fill that space and create a little bit of contrast there to have a different atmospheric identity. So in that idea, we also disrupted the song structure in the larger picture. We had verse, chorus, verse, but it was not really a verse. It was more of a pre-bridge, which I'm going to label as a C. I view it as a unique area, even if it does borrow some of the soundscape of the first verse. I do view it as its own unique section. I think some of those elements of borrowing are really, at least in my eyes, used to subvert expectations, or at least to set the expectations for them to be subverted. It sounds like they're going into a verse two, by way of having the guitar-led stuff underneath heavy growls and heavy drumming. It feels like the first verse, but if you're paying attention, you'll notice it's not. And it does some foreshadowing into, what I already mentioned, is that the song structure is malleable. It's already being changed. They're not sticking with the more traditional A, B, A, B, C, B. We have now moved to something that I feel would be structured as A, B, C, D. We're quite linear up until this point because D would be the breakdown section. And I would have to go back and listen to it again because I forgot there is an E section, which is the part where they kind of went sparse. They reined everything in. The guitar went clean, or at least a slightly modified clean sound, but it ditched the overdrive, basically. That extra grit on the top of its timbre. And we went to a more sparse lineup. I think it was just the guitar, the drums, maybe a very sparsely used bass, maybe a couple of quarter notes per bar or something like that. And then the vocals that were still growls. We still had all this intensity of the growl on top of the empty loneliness that the music was implying. I don't remember if that came in before or after the revisit in the chorus. But either way, I don't think it matters whether I'm looking at the exact song structure or something close to it. The idea is that there's at least 5, 6, I think, unique sections in this song, and at least the first half of the track ends up being a bit more linear, while also utilizing the expectations of genre conventions to subvert expectations. I think the song just does a fantastic job at going about and creating a unique flow throughout the track while still retaining some elements that are sort of tropes or just standardized aspects of the genre, and also utilizing some of those expectations to create something seemingly fresh by subverting what the listener might be thinking is going to happen on a first listen. Just really well done. Um, but then we move into the next huge atmosphere shift. Like I said, we had the heavy verse, the light chorus or the lighter chorus, the breakdown, and now this quiet, sparse, lonely section. And I think this is really interesting that they went about this. I'm going to dive into this a little bit in comparison with the music video and in comparison with the lyrics in a second. But I love how the atmosphere of the song is constantly changing. There are sections that feel more at home in metalcore, and there's definitely sections that feel less at home in the idea of metalcore. And they find a fantastic way of balancing both of these into creating a song that feels cohesive despite its various identities. Um, and then they even change it up there at the end. I don't think this has anything that kind of fits in thematically with what they're speaking about, what the video is talking about, but I do really enjoy the shifting elements at the end, specifically in the drums, while everybody else is riffing. And I think, the vocal, there is that final section. So there is an F section as well. There's a 6 unique section to the song, at least. I could be missing one too. This is where the vocalist, I think there's 2 growls going on. I kind of hear a higher bit to it. I don't know if there's a fry scream on top of it, or I guess below it is kind of how I heard it. But it's so low in the EQ, its volume is also dropped way down, that it's sort of to me it's a perception of it. I kind of feel like I hear somebody doing a nice higher scream, but every time I think I hear it and I tune into that frequency, it's gone. It's like a ghost. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but there is some extra width in that section. It could be a doubling up of the growls as well. I don't know, but this is what I think is the heaviest section, even heavier than the breakdown. Um, and then we have this interesting idea in the drums where they're shifting between something that's a bit more rigid. We have double bass kicks and like snare on 2 and 4, or maybe snare on every downbeat, and really creating this heavy weight, almost mechanical. It's very rigid, and doing that for like 4 or 8 beats, and then switching it off to something with a little bit more rhythmic syncopation in it. It's a little lighter, maybe not as rigid of having this constant attack. And then moving back to something that's a little bit more rigid, that kind of focuses in more on emphasizing downbeats rather than playing around with being a metronome or some embellishing line, just kind of fitting back into that mechanical rigidity. And there's actually a lot of this in the song now that I've noticed, of bouncing around between two opposing ideas, and in short time, this constant fluctuation, much like the guitars at the beginning, with every 2 bars changing their roles and changing what they're playing. We also have the duality of the vocals. We have the clean versus the heavy. So yeah, and then like I said, the drums, especially at the end, maybe if I go back, I can hear more of this, but this rigidity versus, I don't want to say groove. I don't think that there were any moments in here that were super groovy, other than that that 1 or 2 bars of syncopated rhythm that kind of felt a little genty. Um, but there. It really wasn't rhythm. It's more of rigidity versus embellishment, expression. That might be the word I want. So the rigidity follows a set pattern, and when the drummer pulls out of that and loosens up a little bit, it allows for embellishment or ornamentation, and a little bit of that expression, being able to put some little spices on top of the metronome playing. Whereas in the rigidity, it is the constant playing. There is no room for ornamentation. There's no room to expand on an idea. It is this loop, and he plays it perfectly with no alteration to it, and kind of bounces back and forth between a little bit of this expressive playing and this very mechanical playing. So yeah, just on a musical level, listening to this was a blast. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the subversions. I enjoyed the linear ride we saw through the beginning. I enjoyed even the, talking about duality, that one quiet section, when normally I would expect some clean vocals to come in to complement the more vulnerable, isolated feeling, brings the growls back in. And that's a contrasting element right there, because you have um, this lightness in the music, and then you bring in you bring in the heaviest vocal delivery you have to pair with it. It's a very interesting combination. Now I like how all of this ties into everything else that's going on visually and thematically as far as the lyrics go. The song is about, at least on my surface read, social media, and I don't think I don't think that was hidden in any way. You look at the music video, and it is laced with images of social media. We have views, we have likes, we have images of a bunch of what looked to be like hilarious parodies of TikTok and Twitter and Facebook's logos and stuff like that. And then, of course, we have the idea presented through the VR goggles as an entrance into a digital world, right? So we're looking at digital social media. I think that's what the whole song is about. Now, lyrically, and as far as the video is concerned, I think there is a bit of a disconnect or possibly two sides of the same coin. They seem to be both talking about the dangers of social media, though, at least to me, they're both looking at two different dangers. The lyrics talk about social media controlling the world, well, at least controlling the narrative. There's a lot of lines about, like one says, I tell you believe that's just how it goes. There's no time for questions, just swallow it all. You heard it from me first, so it must be true. Don't listen to what they all claim to know. Um, the chorus says, does it matter anymore who to believe if every story has a version 10? This idea that any narrative can be rewritten or recontextualized to benefit whatever somebody wants it to. There's also bringing in an interesting element in the lyrics, which I think is a bit off, but a really nice way to bring things together in a more cross time idea. It says, turn the TV on. It's time to feed on what altered reality I want to believe. You know, the whole song seems to be about, at least to me, social media and how it can control the narrative of anything, whether it's, Facebook's algorithm or just YouTube's algorithm, ways that social media can control what you see. There's very few platforms out there that allow an unfiltered feed. I think Twitter is the last one, and I think it's actually defaults now to a curated feed rather than an unfiltered one where you get to see everything. You actually have to go in there and tell it you want to see every tweet that comes in. More and more social media is controlling what you see. So it's interesting to bring this idea of the TV into it, um, which I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it doesn't fit um, on more of a tangential level, but it is an isolated lyric against everything else that seems to be about the modern issue of social media. And then, of course, if you haven't figured it out by now, the final section, the heavy part that I mentioned, where I think the growls are doubled up, and I think there might even be a scream in there as well. This is the heaviest section. It repeats constantly, don't doubt me, don't think twice. And then after saying that, it has a different line. So it'll be like, don't doubt me, don't think me twice. This, don't doubt me, don't think me twice. And that third line says, don't believe any other words except mine. Your mind is mine. I'm the source of all that's right. Embrace my truth. So yeah, there's a lot of elements here about misdirection and telling lies as truth, and how social media has given these manipulators a platform to find people who will listen to them, and how that has created an age of misinformation, which is so sad that Internet 2.0 has turned this way after what I remember of Internet 1. Web 1.0 was awesome. It was about coming together and meeting new people and the interconnectedness of the internet. We had GeoCities. I mean, you didn't get much better than that. We had bulletin boards where we would just be able to meet other people. It was awesome, man. This rise of social media and Internet 2.0 should have brought us together. It was the chosen one. Oh man. But I want to pair this against the music video, which shows somebody rising through the ranks of social media and the fears and negative aspects of that. We see somebody who enters into the digital world. Their likes continue to rise. They get some nice comments, but they also get a lot of bullying and negative comments and harassment by doing so. And it eventually gets to the point where they want out, but they can't. And yeah, that's definitely something that happens all the time. I mean, internet bullying is, well, bullying is pretty much synonymous with the internet. Even in Web 1.0, which I just spoke about very positively, we still had trolls. We still had people who tried to ruin everybody else's good times. And just like any other avenue of popularity, once you hit a certain point, you're going to have people who hate you, and unfortunately, social media gives them a platform no different than anybody else to express their thoughts. And you're going to come into contact with them. I see them. I'm not even that big. I have 20,000 subscribers. That's to me is not a very large number when we have people with millions and trillions. I'm still a small channel as far as I'm concerned. Um, and I still get hateful comments and harassing comments. So it's just a part of being publicly available online that we haven't really fixed, which is kind of sad to say given how long these social media platforms have been around. YouTube is not old or is not new. Facebook is not new. We do have new social media platforms popping up. Twitter's only a few years old as far as being a popular platform. I don't know when it was created, but if in my mind, if you're making something new, you should also improve upon what else is out there, and moderation should easily be one of those top things because, uh, harassment and negative comments, especially if you're large and you get brigaded with these negative comments, or even have a campaign put against you by another popular personality, it is a massive hit to your mental health. And that is, mental health has so much control over every other aspect of your life. Um, and we see that in the music video where, obviously this person wants out of the VR or, out of this social media element, and they can't, and they end up, having a single tear. But they can't really show it because now they're just clickbaiting. They're making sad videos for pity or whatever, or at least that's how I read into that. So it's the single tear to show that they're not happy with where they are, rather than breaking down and having a panic attack because you can't publicly put that out there. Um, so it's really interesting that they chose to approach the dangers of social media in two different ways. Um, but I also love the flow of the song. I talked about how it went through a couple of different atmospheres. And I think that's really important because there is some beauty to social media. There's also some really negative aspects to social media. But I love how atypically they went towards an isolating, vulnerable sound that works because a lot of social media, take it from me, is just sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera. There's obviously the interactive aspect of talking on Discord or, commenting back to you guys and reading your comments, talking to you guys on Twitter. There is an interactive element, but, there's also this lonely concept of just me being here. And, if I'm getting negative comments or if I'm getting harassed online, I don't really have anyone to talk to about it. I have to be strong for my family so I can bring it up to them possibly in, once or twice, but it's not something that I feel I should weigh on them constantly. And the harassment is constant, it's not going to end. Um, and I can't really bring it up to all of you because, one, I mean, what are you going to do to fix it? Uh, I don't have the tools, and the average viewer definitely doesn't. They don't even have the moderation tools of the channel. So there isn't really much positive that can come out of that other than venting. It is something that, at least to me, I get the idea that a lot of content creators or large personalities, anybody big on social media, has to face and bear alone. I know there are some content creator groups out there, some larger personalities that get together and they talk about it, and they kind of have that shared camaraderie of all being in the same place, being the same type of, the same type of work and the same type of harassment. But again, it doesn't fix anything. It's more of a venting situation and realizing you're not alone. But when you leave those groups, especially now post COVID times or during COVID times, I suppose, a lot of those meetups aren't going to be live. You're not going to all fly to the same town to do that. It's going to be on Discord calls, whether that's voice or video. There's still that lonely element of sitting in a room by yourself talking to a camera. So to bring that isolation into the music and then to not pair it with the vulnerability of the clean vocals, but to pair it with the growling, the screaming, the rage that goes along with that, and being so upset about this pocket of vulnerability that one has to shoulder by themselves, I think was a phenomenal audio, uh, a pocket of music that perfectly describes that situation of dealing with online harassment by yourself, because our platforms don't give us the tools to do it. They don't give us the tools to deal with it, to cope with it, to work with it. They just expect us to take the brunt while they get their ad revenue. So yeah, to hear that part of the song was so beautiful. I loved it so much. I hate that I saved this for 30 minutes into this video. I wanted to talk about it so bad up until now, but it is my favorite part of the song. And I don't know if that's exactly what they were going for. Maybe that's just me reading into it, being somebody who exists on social media. But I absolutely love that that's the imagery that I got. That's the feelings I've got out of that section. I mean, for all I know, they just wanted to subvert expectations again, and instead of going with the clean vocals, which would have been what any band did, they just went with the heavy ones. But the fact that they did that, whether it was intentional or not, and how it made me feel seen, phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. Anyways, call it tragedy. Fantastic work here. If you're watching this, thanks so much for bringing your work to my attention. And I hope you enjoyed this analysis of it. For everybody else, leave me some comments. Let me know what you thought of this. I know I kind of went into a bit of a conversation outside of the music. I kind of spoke about what it was speaking about and my own experiences with it and my understandings of, working online and being present in public on social media. But I do think I went to a little bit of the music as well, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. If you agree with me or disagree with me, or if you had your own interpretation of some of the stuff, go ahead and leave those comments down there. Let me know what your perspective was on this track. Above the comment section, if you want, you can go check in the description box. In there's a link for Linktree that'll take you to this menu here with everything related to the channel. There's also going to be links for everything social media wise for Call It Tragedy. I have their Instagram, I think Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and their YouTube channel. All those links are going to be down there if you're interested in looking into anything else that the band has. Above the description box, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for this week. I guess I should put out a blocked live stream this week. So I guess I'll do that tomorrow. Make sure that gets out. Sunday will be the last Patreon live stream for the month. Be sure, if you're in the critic or higher tier, be sure to check that out. And yeah, I don't know, my mind blanked. Be sure to be there 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll chat and listen to some good music. See what else is on the list for February. All right, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.